Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy McGarrow. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. I'm really excited to be talking about the life of the director with Soma Helmi. She directed season 3 of Snapchat's The Dead Girls Detective Agency, multiple short films and TV series, and is currently working on a project in Jakarta. Welcome to the show, Soma.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So I'm always curious, what is the road to the position that people end up doing? And so what was your road to directing? And did you always want to be a director?
Short answer, no. I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do. So I studied multimedia at university in Australia, which was kind of this great new degree where we did everything from animation to programming to filmmaking. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I actually wanted to be in VFX. I wanted to be a special effects editor.
Oh, wow.
And, cut to me graduating, and I ended up actually being a graphic designer. So I took a little bit of a left turn, and I was in graphic design and art directing for a really long time. But I moved to Jakarta, I think around 2003, 2004, and I started working in an advertising firm as an art director. And we were shooting commercials just, all month, all year. And the more time I spent on set, the more I kind of remembered, hey, I actually want to be in film. But I don't want to be here as a client. I want to be there. I love what the director's doing. I want to be that person. And so that's when the directing path really started. But I kind of fell into commercial directing quite naturally. And then from there, more narrative stuff. And that's how I got here.
So what do you love about directing?
How much time have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you not love? It's like
there's a lot not to
right.
love. There's a lot to love. What do I love? I think this is kind of a really basic answer, but when I've worked in a lot of different departments getting here, and what I realized was, as a director, you kind of have your finger in all the pies. You get to influence so much of the story, and you get to kind of really bring out what's in your imagination to paper, whether you're writing it or someone else is writing it. I think that's like you're holding it all together, like story-wise, which is really exciting because you're not specifically staying in one area, like the art department or the camera or whatever. You kind of have this overall idea of it all, and you're shepherding it through, so to speak. I think that's one of the things that I really love. I love working with actors. I think there's that real buzz when you have a breakthrough on a scene, or, with an emotional beat with an actor that maybe is taking them a minute to get there, and then you get there and you just kind of like did it together, and it's just like the most wonderful feeling to get that. So there's so many positives. And also I have a bit more of a technical background. Like, my dad is a photographer and I'm a photographer too. So I kind of bring this, like, the technical side of it, the visual side of it, and, more of the, working with actors. So yeah, I love so many aspects of it. I think it's going to be a really long answer.
No, I think that's, really great to be, because really you're the hub besides the first AD, on set.
Yeah.
You're really having to manage a lot of different things, moving parts and answering a whole bunch of different questions and going on a fast pace, especially TV from film. TV, I know, is a lot faster paced than film is.
It is, but I think that's where my commercial background and training really comes in, because commercials move super fast also. And yes, you might be shooting a 30-second commercial, but like you've storyboarded it, shot listed, everything to like within an inch of its life with the clients, so you're like prepping like crazy, and then you might have one day to shoot this, and there's no contingency days. On the bigger budget stuff, obviously you have multiple days, but a lot of the times you're on pressure to get everything you need to get in that day. So I think that really helped me too, with my preparation, with all the timing, all that scheduling. Yeah. And then how to tell a story really quickly, in a finite amount of time. What are the essence of the story that you really need to get to?
Yeah. Yeah. And also you do some writing too, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
So how do you incorporate, do you write and direct your stuff, or do you write for other people?
I've not written for other people. I mean, obviously commercial stuff I used to write when I was in the agency. But I direct most of the stuff that I write. That kind of came from necessity, because I started my film career in Bali, where there weren't very many filmmakers around. So if I wanted to shoot something, I had to write it, so it just kind of developed that way. And now it's just become part of what I do.
Now, do you live full-time in Bali, or do you live here? Or
right now I'm full-time in LA. I came here 6 years ago now. But like you said, I'm about to go do a project in Indonesia, and I'm planning to spend half my time there and half my time here from now on.
Okay.
Or
it must be nice to be international, Are you from Australia?
I am not, but I went to school in Australia.
Okay.
Since high school and university, so I spent quite a lot of time there.
Oh, wow. That is so fun that you just like a jet flyer all over the place, and then probably feel more comfortable, living in LA, but then shooting in a foreign country, probably feel a familiarity to that.
Well, Indonesia, very much so, because that is my home. So that is familiar. But yes, I have worked and shot all over the world, and I think it's easy for me to do that because I've grown up an international stage, and I've worked everywhere, even as an art director. So the funny thing with working everywhere is, yes, it's different, but there's also so many similarities that it's really funny, especially film sets. You can step on a film set pretty much anywhere and just pick out the departments. It's really funny. You can be in Japan and you're like, you're a grip, it's like you can kind of really pick them out. It's really interesting. They're everywhere.
Yeah. So you also had an opportunity, or several opportunities, to shadow directors from Grey's Anatomy to Homeland. How did you create those opportunities?
Different ways. Homeland, my very good friend was the composer for the show, and he introduced me to Leslie, and we had a really great conversation, and she offered from there. But I mean, with that one, it was still I was on a list. There was a very long list, and I just happened to be very lucky to get in. The couple of the other ones were, I guess, similar. I found people to connect with, whether it was through generals or, the execs. And the last one that I did, which was because I'm in the I was actually just ended the Paramount Viewfinders Directors Program. And so I did it as part of that program. But that was the last time that I shadowed. So it was, directly through a program.
Well, and you worked with Debbie Allen, who's an amazing actress, and she was on is on Grey's Anatomy, and you shadowed with her. What was that experience like?
It was really interesting because they're such a tight-knit group. They've been shooting for, I don't even know how many years now, but when I was doing it, it was I think we were season 16. So coming into it was a little bit, I guess, nerve-wracking because they were so tight. But I think that was actually part of why it was so great, because there's such a, you hear these stories about it's such a family, and then it's actually behind the scenes, it's not. But they were really, really lovely with each other, and I think that made it a really great experience. And she's incredible. It was like a masterclass. I mean, being on set with her was you had to be on your toes, She was asking me questions, just like immediately would turn to me and just say, how would you do this? What's your short list? And it was like, okay, so you had to be really prepared to be on the set with her, because it was no joke to her, to her. She takes it obviously very seriously, but she takes having shadows very seriously too. And it was an interesting experience because also I was officially shadowing a different director it was her first time directing an episode, but she has been with the show since I think season 1 as a producer and an EP. So she's in the family. So it was very supportive. Everybody was there for her. We had a table read and there was standing ovation and tears, and it was beautiful, So it was wonderful, but she was a first-time director. So that dynamic was interesting. So I ended up shadowing, quote unquote, both of them. But Debbie was the one that was really took me under her wing and taught me. And it was really, really incredible.
How many days did you get to spend on the set?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. So are you kind of there for the full shooting of an episode?
Oh, yeah. From prep. From first day of prep of that episode until the last shoot day of that episode.
Oh my God. That must be amazing. And then, and so you get to sit in while they're prepping to see how they prep.
Yeah. And that's one of the most important parts. You need to know how they work. Yeah.
Right. And so how does that work? I mean, what did you learn from the experience? Anything that you have now in your own toolkit?
Oh, absolutely. Every single time I shadow or every single time I shoot anything, I'm learning and I add to my toolkit. I think what's interesting with episodic is there's a structure to it all. There's a number of meetings that every single show has in prep. So the order of it kind of gets shifted around. So there's familiarity in that sense because oh, this is a tone meeting. Oh, this is so you know all those meetings. And it was really good to just, whenever you're coming into a new show, and I think that's why it's important to shadow to direct, is you get to know what that order is and how people work and, what do they talk about and how much detail and all these kind of things. And so that was interesting to see, obviously, that it was familiar, but also you learn different tips every time. I think with her, it was very much how she worked with her actors was really interesting to watch. And she had some really just interesting methods that I absorbed. Yeah.
Any you'd want to share?
There was one thing that she said that was so interesting was talking about habits with actors. There was a character who was pretending to be a doctor. There was a scene where she was scrubbing in with a very senior doctor. She said, okay, watch this scene. What I would tell this actor is, you don't know what you're doing. You need to watch him and mimic him. Everything he does. You've never scrubbed in before. You're pretending to be an actor, a doctor. And I don't know what circumstances this was Grey's Anatomy that somehow she's in the operating room. So it was really interesting where she was it's not about the dialogue in this moment. It's about your mimicry of him. And that was a really interesting moment to see that happen because it was physical and habits and watching the other actor. And so, what she told her was just everything he does, you just have to be one step behind. And it was really cool.
Wow, what a great opportunity and stuff. And do you know how people get on a list to do that kind of work, to shadow? Do you have to be in programs like you were in to kind of get the opportunities or know someone?
It's both of those. I said, the 3 shows that I did before the program were through people I knew or through meetings that I had. Obviously with programs, especially now, I believe all of them have to guarantee shadowing. So that's different. Getting into the programs is a whole nother conversation that is very long, but you can also do it without the programs. Absolutely. If I was given advice, if you're trying to target a certain show, don't just talk to one person. You have to just surround that show. You talk to, if you can, the producer and the the DP and the actor, like as many people as possible. And that's how like the Grey's Anatomy thing happened, was because I did know a couple of different people and I had a general at Sunderland. And so she called me out of the blue. This is really terrible, but I didn't know who she was. And she called me at like 9 p.m. one night, and I picked up the phone and I was like, hello. And she said, hi, this is Debbie Allen. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. She started saying, oh, I've heard so much about you. And it was she had heard from multiple angles about me. That's how it works. It can't just be kind of like a one-off thing, because obviously there's so many people that want to do it. Like, the more people hear, like the more the EPs or, the showrunner or the producing director hear about you, the more they'll feel, I guess, at ease to talk to you.
That's so great. Yeah, what opportunities. But it's really about, like, I just over and over and over again, it's networking. It's really about making connections. It's not just about like networking. It's about making connections. And that's how you really, I think, go to the next level.
Yeah, I know. There's something people say all the time, that having a general is almost like having a first date, because it's not necessarily like, you're not really there to show off how great you are and, technically genius or whatever. You're kind of just really there to see if you'll get along and if you're, not going to destroy their family, kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. It's connecting and just being human. And
so let's talk about you teaching now. You have 2 workshops, short film prep and advanced director's prep. Can you tell us a little bit about the courses and what influenced you to create them?
The short film prep is pretty much what it sounds like. I created kind of this prep methodology from all my years as a director, from commercials to, shorts and web series. And it's to get somebody doing their first project like comfortable. It's not as, detailed a prep as I would do for a series, for example, but it's there like a guideline of what you should be looking at and should be prepping as a director for a short film, so that, it doesn't all go pear-shaped. And then the advanced one is, again, what it sounds like. It's all the things that a lot of it learnt from the Dead Girls show. A lot of it I learnt from shadowing different shows, how to keep everything straight when you're block shooting and crossboarding and working with, ensemble actors, because everything gets really overwhelming. And my philosophy is you really have to prep in order to have fun on set. Like, yes, and also in order for it not to fall apart on set. But the more you prep, the easier it is going to be once you set foot on set. And that seems really like logical, but somehow it gets lost.
Right.
It sounds like really dry and maybe sometimes uninteresting work, like all these spreadsheets and whatnot. But the more you prep, the more you know the story, the more you know your characters, the more you know everything inside out. So once you are on set and people are asking all those questions for you, don't have to think about it. It just comes as instinct. And also when you come on set, you have plan A, B, C, D, because everything always goes wrong, on a shoot. Let's not be,
right.
That's just the way it is. Hopefully it all goes smoothly, but most of the time it doesn't. And that's why I wanted to teach prep, because I had a few people, I think it started with a few people asking me, they were doing their first projects and they were like, hey, I hear you really love prep. Like, what do you do? And I would tell them what I did. And then they kind of got a little overwhelmed. And then I just kind of put it all on a presentation. And it made sense to them. So I did one. The first time I did it, I was just through a group of director friends we were all in this Black Magic Directors Program together. And they wanted to see it, and so I gave it to them, and they were like, oh, you need to do this as a workshop. So that's where it all really started. But yeah, now I don't do them that often, but I think that It's a really useful thing to know as a director, because I think everybody prep differently. But if you have at least knowledge of all these tools, and I don't know everything, obviously, but these are all just the things that I do, you can pick and choose what you do in every project. You might not necessarily do all of them, but at least you have backups, you know.
Now, how do you prep beforehand when you're reading the script and then coming up with your shot list in particular? Do you have any process that you do?
Process. It's standard every time I read the script. As I'm reading it, sometimes I have ideas for shots and I note them down, and then that turns into a shot list. I do a lot of research, visual research. Like I use, either Shot Deck or Google or whatever it is. I put together a visual lookbook, which helps me with my shot list also, because I'm thinking of mood and I'm thinking of style and all that. So that those things kind of go hand in hand while I'm working on the treatment and the shot list together. The other thing is I really like working with my DP when I'm shot listing. I don't kind of do it in a silo, and we really discuss the look that we want and the way that we're going to story tell, and obviously the gear that we have on hand, and we work on it that way, where I'll start. It's kind of like making music in a way. Like I'll start and this is the melody, and then they'll come in, so I really like collaborating with people. And then all the other technical stuff kind of comes in. I do story beat breakdowns and master breakdowns. There's a lot of breakdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great because, it sometimes can be probably daunting for the first-time director on creating a shot list because, the director has to come up with the whole visual package. And that's so great that you have a good working relationship with your DP, because I think that's very important, because together you can do it versus you alone.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to work with the DP. I don't know what kind of shot list you'd get without them. I really believe in the idea that you hire your HODs or your heads of departments for a reason. They're experts at their field, and you absolutely should be asking their opinions and their input, because you can't make a film on your own. Well, you can, like a little handycam with a recorder thing, but these kind of shows, episodics and even short films and web series, you have a crew with you. You're not on your own. You have all this help. Why would you not use it? You've got, brains and creativity at your fingertips. Why are you not using it? Just sitting on your own making a shot list,
Right.
It kind of doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah, no. I think the biggest thing for a director is their DP, because that together will be the mood and the shot, and they'll be thinking about things that maybe you're not thinking about. So
absolutely,
if you're not a shooter.
Yeah. And I really like asking my DPs, what's something that you've always wanted to do? What is that? Does that work for our project? Is that something that we can integrate here? Because I think that gets DPs really excited and invested, in your project, because it's part of them. So I think that's a really important question to ask.
I love that. I didn't think about that. Do you have a favorite DP you like to work with, or do you like to work with multiple different DPs just to get a different flavor and feel for each project?
I have favorites, definitely, through the years. I've worked with the DP that I worked on Dead Girls quite a bit, Kayla Hoff. She's way too busy now for me. She's really, really talented. But I do have a few that I go back to. I like trying new DPs as well, but once I click with somebody, I really like going back to them, because it's kind of shorthand and all that, it makes life a lot easier. And as a director, you also feel like some of the weight has taken off your shoulders when you trust and how you work with that DP. You kind of just let go a little bit,
Right, yeah.
Because at least okay, the visual language is safe. We're cool, and I won't have to, spend 20 minutes explaining something on, when we're trying to do something. So it definitely takes the weight off.
So what do you think the biggest challenge is are for upcoming directors, like people that are starting out? What do you think the biggest kind of, challenges or mistakes that people make when they start, or maybe that you've made?
I made a lot.
Every project, there's a new one, it's like you're always learning,
There's
right?
always one that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. and you're like, oh, I do that. And then, you realize after you wrap that it wasn't so bad. It's fine.
No,
but you
usually
lost
not.
all the sleep. One of the things is, we've already talked about it a little bit, is trusting your team. Hire the right people, first of all, and then trust your team. Because I feel like newer directors maybe don't realize maybe how much of a team effort it is, and try to do everything by themselves and micromanage, and then they lose their minds, and then the whole project kind of goes wonky because of that. Because if you're stressed and, not stable as a director, it really ripples down all the way down to the bottom. I think that's the biggest one, and then not realizing how taxing it is, because it's not just the technical, and you have to have it's you're kind of this central figure on set, and not only are people asking for information from you, but it's also like draining you of energy, and you're basically, this is going to sound horrible, but you're surrounded by like vampires almost, because you need to provide that positivity and the energy and the drive and the everything, as well as, some producers on set too, but like it's coming from you. And I think maybe some newer directors are not ready for that in particular, because it's not really spoken about, it's not like, it's not in the books really.
Right.
So you just need to know to be ready for that it's draining. You need to provide the energy on set. They're going to be feeding off you.
Yeah, and there's a lot, especially as you get to bigger and bigger projects, there are a lot more people involved.
More vampires.
Yes, and it can be overwhelming. So you really got to have that great first AD. That's
Absolutely.
kind of the shield to you in a way that, and can answer, and the closer and the more information that they have, the more they can help execute things smoothly without always having to go to you for all the answers.
For sure. Oh, yeah. A good AD is worth their weight in gold. I mean, they will shield you. They will help you make decisions, all of that stuff. Despite that, doesn't matter how great your AD is, that they're going to still be taking energy from you. Like, like it's still going to happen. Maybe not as badly, but obviously with newer directors, sometimes it takes a while to get your crew together that you love. So you're probably going to encounter maybe not the best crews sometimes. And how do you deal with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. So how do you create your directing opportunities? And, how did you get the Dead Girls Detective Agency? How did that come about?
That was my manager at the time this is a really funny story. I was going in for what I thought was a general at the production company, and he had sent me the first episode script, and I was like, I thought I was going in for a general. Why are they sending me the episode script? And it was for a different show, actually. It was for not Dead Girls. And he was like, I don't know. Maybe they just want you to read what they do. And I was like, are you sure? They don't usually send out episode scripts for a general. And he was like, nah, it's fine. And my head, this is how much of an over-prepper I am. I was like, no, this is not right. And he sent me that on Friday. My meeting was on Monday. And I was like, all right. I bought the book that show was based on. I read it on Saturday, and I prepped a very short, lookbook. It was only 5 pages long. And I was like, just in case, I'm going to come in. Lo and behold, I come in, sit down, chit chat for 10 minutes. And so tell us your ideas for the show. We'd love to hear what coming. And I was like, I knew it. But because I was prepared, and also when they said that, I was really honest with them. And I said, listen, I was told this was a general, but because I am who I am. Here's what I've got. And I read the book. And
Wow.
so they were like, oh, fantastic. Sorry about that. We'll give you a couple more days. Come back and, give us your pitch and your ideas on it. And I didn't get that show. And they came back to me 2 weeks later and said, listen, we've got a bigger show. Dead Girls Detective Agency. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. It was like twice as long. It was 2 seasons rather than 1 season of the other show. So,
wow.
Yeah, crazy story. But that sometimes, you just have to be prepared.
Yeah. And for people who don't know what a general is, could you give a definition?
General meeting.
Just a general meeting for anything or
usually
anything
general meetings are going in to meet an executive at a studio or at a production company just to get to know each other, like I said, and to see how you work. What are some of the things that you aspire to, and they explain how their company works. And, it's just kind of like this get to know each other thing that lasts anywhere from 20 minutes to, I've had one that was like 2 hours long because we were just having such a great time chatting. And they were like, should we talk about work? Yeah, maybe we should talk about work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that you're so intuitive that you knew that it was, especially if you're getting a script, it's kind of like, well, wait a minute.
You don't get scripts for general.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's usually just like a get to know each other chat. And so I thought, was this suspicious? I don't know if it was like intuition or what, but it was very like, that's unusual.
Yeah. So want to share about your upcoming project that you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So I am co-creating a show in Indonesia. It's going to be in Indonesian. It's I guess more of a dramedy. That's an 8-episode show. I have a head writer for it, but I'm kind of writing with her. And I will be directing all 8 episodes. They're 45-minute long episodes. And I go to Jakarta in 2 weeks.
Wow.
We're in prep for it right now. So we're doing prep while I'm here and they're there, which is very interesting because we have a 14-hour time difference. But yeah, I'll be there in 2 weeks and we start real heavy prep when I get there.
Now, are you going to hire locally or are you bringing people?
Yes, 100% there. I'm going over as the only person coming from here. And then everyone else, actors, cast, crew, everything's there.
Yeah. How did you come up with this project and what's it about? Or can you share what details could you share about it? Or
so the basic premise is about a young woman who is on the hunt. She needs to find a husband. She needs to get married because she's like nearing 30 and you're an old maid.
Right.
And she is a true believer in horoscopes and zodiacs. So her true match has to be the correct, zodiac match.
Yeah.
And her father Alzheimer's is moving into dementia, and his last wish has basically he needs to see her married and happy before his memories start fading. So there's pressure from family and pressure from society. So like I said, it's a dramedy, and obviously there's a love interest, and it's going to be really beautiful. I can't really say much more than that, but it's I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's super great. And how I got to it was I did a short film last year called Full Service. That's a all Indonesian American cast rom-com short film that was one of the winners of the Kate Julius Gouw grant presented by Janet Yang, our president of the Academy. And it did really well. It's still doing really well. It's on Amuleto right now, but the studio in Jakarta got hold of it. It was sent to them and they fell in love with it. And they asked me whether I wanted to make a series, but it's not based on that. Uh-huh. They had 5 shows that were in development, and they said, which one of these would you be interested in? And so it was a dream the whole time. I was like, wow. Wait, what's happening right now? Are you pitching me 5 shows?
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And we went with that one, and we've been developing it for, a few months now, and now we're into prep.
That's so exciting. And then where will it air? Or does it have a distribution?
It's going to be on a international streamer that's coming out of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And how many languages do you speak?
Sort of 3. My first 2 languages were Balinese and Indonesian. But Balinese has faded quite a bit because I don't use it every day. And Indonesian, obviously, I use it when I'm there. But that's the funny thing with writing this show. It's all Indonesian.
Right.
And I've been here for 6 years, so you get rusty very quickly. But I'm having to read and write in Indonesian. So the scripts become these really funny Frankenstein. Like I get a draft from the writer, which is all Indonesian. I have to turn my Indonesian brain on, and then I write my notes and additional scenes in English, and she has to translate them back to Indonesian. That's an interesting process.
Yeah. Well, at least you're not alone in it.
No. And she's fantastic. She's super smart, and her English is great. But there are still some of these kind of misconnects where I like, some of the idioms and some of the sayings we have in English just don't translate well into Indonesian. So I sometimes get the translations back, and I'm like, oh, that's not it at all.
Right.
Let's have to have a discussion about it. Yeah.
Well, that's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on all these
Thank you.
opportunities that you're getting. Any closing thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Closing thoughts. I feel like filmmaking, everybody probably knows, or if you don't know, if you're coming into it, it is a really hard journey. It can be a really, really difficult path. And it's probably been said many times, but you really have to stick to it. If it's your dream, it's going to be tough and you're going to want to quit. I've wanted to quit many times, but if you hang in there, the good things do start happening, especially if it's your passion, and you should not do it if it's not your dream and your passion. That's the only thing you want to do, because I can't even imagine doing anything else. Even the number of times I wanted to quit and work at Starbucks. Just know that it's hard, but if you work at it and you have a really good support system, be really conscious that you need a way to figure out your mental health. And I know it's not like filmy, but like making sure that you take care of your mental health is so important. I wish younger film students were taught this at university. Like, how do you cope with it? Because it's hard. And you're creative, so obviously you're sensitive, and you're going to be faced with rejections on a daily basis. But how do you not let that take over? And how do you not let that just drive you down? Because it's going to happen. So surround yourself with a good network of people, with family, with friends, with therapy, whatever it is. I always say that because it's not like the most filmy advice, but I feel like that's how you're going to survive in this industry. And
what do you do?
What do I do?
What do you do for your mental health?
So I have a very supportive husband, which I'm very lucky about. I have a good group of friends that we have sessions that we have to talk it out with. And everybody has their war stories. And I've learned to take breaks. I've learned to listen to myself where everything is just too much to just switch off. And that's really hard to do because a lot of filmmakers are very driven and very, very, dedicated. So even for me, it's really hard. But I'm like, even if it's a couple of hours, can I switch off? Can I not think about the project? Can I go for a walk? Can I watch a movie? Can I do something so that I can just not be in it for a minute? I think that's really important. And having full-on breaks when you think it's all too much and you can't do this and you want to go quit and work in a coffee shop, just don't think about it for a few days or for however long you can, and it'll come back round. It always does. Number of times I'm like, oh, I'm going to go off grid and do this, and then
right.
Suddenly the opportunities come or whatever come. Yeah. And this is the last thing. And again, not super filmy, but be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your crew, be kind to your cast, and it will pay back in dividends. lead your set with kindness. And it seems so simple, but I feel like people miss that a lot.
Well, and especially when film sets can get kind of stressful with time and time management, and when things aren't going well and now you're behind, and then how do you catch up and all that stuff. It is, remember, everyone's in it with you. It's not just you. And
but being kind to yourself too.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself for things, because that's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on set and you're like, why did I not do this? Or why did I think of that? Because I've done it many times. I'm literally awake at 3 a.m. where I'm like, why did she wear blue? Or whatever it is, you know? And you're like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's fine.
You know, speaking of that, I had a nightmare that I missed our recording. And you had called in and I was like, oh my God, I missed it. What happened? You know, because I have all these alarms that go off, and oh my God, that was really scary.
It's
I think that's my worst fear.
Stomach drop feeling where you're like, all the time. Yeah, that's going to happen. But you got to be kind to yourself and just be like, well, okay, I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah. Well, and you learn. I mean, I always think about this too, you know, in retrospect, I always think like, if I could go back, like, what would I do differently? And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't know those things to do them differently. So I think sometimes you just have to recognize that nothing's a failure. It's just a opportunity to learn something different, or learn not to do that again, you know, or something.
Oh, for sure. Every set, every shoot is an opportunity to learn. It's, you know, always, no matter at what level you're at, I feel like you're always learning.
Yeah, and you're always getting to meet new people. I love going on sets because of all the new people that I'm going to meet that I wouldn't have had an opportunity before to meet. And also, you know, even podcast guests, you know, it's like I get to meet you and I get to be on your journey and listen to what you're doing, and then see your films and go, oh my God, I know her. You know, I mean, I just think you just never know where the stars will align to bring you people, and then you'll end up working with them later. So I think it's great.
For sure. You never know. Like I said, I made a short film and now I'm going to make a show in Jakarta.
I know. One leads to the other. I mean, look at all those. You're leading a very exciting life.
I mean, listen, thank you. I especially in the current times, I'm very, very, very appreciative of this opportunity, and it's taken a long time to get here, and it feels good to finally be doing it.
I mean, I'm sure Starbucks will miss you that you're not going to be working for them.
I never quite did that.
But the world will appreciate you, where they get to see you all over. You would have just been stuck in one little store, you know?
You never know. I would have taken over and become like the national manager of Starbucks or something.
I love it. Well, congratulations on your opportunities and good luck. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram at Tammy Magaro. Until we meet again, what's your story?